Well, good morning, everyone. Thank y'all for being here. Today, we'll get the policy committee started. First, we have the agenda adoption. Andre, do you have any concerns or changes?
I don't.
All right, can I get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, the agenda is adopted. Did you have a chance to look at the meeting minutes?
I did.
Okay, any changes or concerns?
Mm-mm.
Okay, I didn't have any either. Can we get a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
All right, so we're now to the meaty part of the meeting. Mr. Coweek, are there any changes in how you want to go through these? I know the large majority of them are updates or combinations.
I might just suggest do the review ones till our third member comes, but other than that, we can just go through the list.
Okay, that sounds great. All
Starting at the
right.
top.
Go ahead.
Starting at the top.
Yep. All right, the first one we have is policy 4202, 5029, 2727, service animal in schools. This
Right.
looked like the minor updates is normal. Anything to highlight or concerns on this one?
No, the only thing is we did make a small addition to the list of the 5 things about excluding. That came from staff, number 5.
Okay, and I saw the legal references were updated as well, and some of the wording was shifted around in the exclusions.
Yep.
All right. Any concerns, Andre, with this?
No.
All right. With that, we'll make a recommendation to move this to first reading to the full board by consensus. Are there any concerns? Hearing none, we'll move this to first reading to the full board. All right, next we have the regulation for the same policies. Anything to highlight on this one?
Just 2 quick things. One is, I think I have an edit in here about Dr. Lanier's title, but that's premature. So, unless we wanna just, so we need to change that back to the existing title,
Yes, or it can be, applications.
superintendent or designee.
I think that's easiest.
Yeah, we'll make that, if that's what you see under the introduction,
Yeah.
to this, so we'll change all that to the superintendent or designee.
Okay.
And then that will relieve that.
And then I think there was a question whether or not we needed the regulation.
That was sort of my question, whether we wanted to keep a separate policy. It's not very long. Most of everything else is in the other one. So the regulation is just basically we're following the law. So we could include whatever's not in the other policy, you know,
It doesn't matter to me.
yeah, or just keep it separate because we have it that way. This is OCS only. So I don't really, I'm fine either way. We have it here. It's certainly, we can just leave it there for anyone who has looked at this policy. They'll know it's there. Or we can just, if we want, we can just take these sections and add a section to the previous policy at the end of, add a section, what would it be? I guess G. But again, what it says in the opening paragraph basically is we'll make reasonable accommodations for law.
Since we don't have it in a readable format, we have one of two choices.
Right.
If superintendent, you feel like, hey, yeah, we could just include it, we could bring this one back, both of these back, and then combine them, or we leave as is and just approve the updates for both. I think it's covered either way.
Yeah, it
so-
doesn't matter to me. I'm okay with moving it on.
Just
I'm
leaving it, yeah.
I'm okay with leaving it.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, any concerns, Andre or Ms. Purcell?
Fine, thank you.
Okay,
I don't even know which one you're talking about.
we're talking about the service animals in school, we're just on the second one. All right, we'll move this, forward to the school board, or full board for first reading under consensus. Any concerns?
No.
Hearing none, we'll move that forward to first reading to the full board. All right, next, 4230, communicable diseases for students.
Okay, just as we're pulling that one up, I've spent, Sylvia Compton and I have spent a lot of time going through the policies and updating, and we have almost all of our health policies up here except for 6125, because Neil hadn't had a chance to look at that one in depth because there were more changes. But, we used our sort of, what was existing, making sure things were updated, in terms of requirements and, the practice of nursing, for which I'm not an expert. All the changes are fairly, if there's any questions about the changes, let me know, but I think it speaks for itself.
Any concerns on this one? It looks like, from what I read, there was a lot of good updates to some of the language and clarity around it.
No question. No concerns.
Okay. Ms. Purcell, any from your side?
It's fine with me, I looked at it last night, it's fine.
Okay,
I got ready to sign in, it said my password had to be changed, so of course, now.
2 for 4.
you're not the only one this month, so. All right, okay, we'll move this forward to first reading to the full board by consensus, unless there are any concerns. Hearing none, we'll move this one to first reading. Next, we have 4270, 6145, concussion and head injury.
Yeah, this was more of in the mode of the updates. Making it square with requirements, updated requirements. And again, just as a reminder, not so much in this policy, but others, we're doing away with cross-references at the bottom. But we don't have any in this policy, but in the other ones.
Yeah, we normally get an annual report on this as well. Okay, any further discussion on this policy? All right, we'll recommend moving this to first reading to a full board by consensus, unless there are any concerns. Hearing none, we'll move that to first reading. All right, next, we have an attachment, 4270, 6145, the concussion return letter.
The only comment sort of here is that whether we want to keep this in the manual or rather just as a procedure, both staff and Sylvia Compton and we both think that it doesn't need to be here. And it could just be left as an internal document, not necessarily posted.
So this is the letter that's given to the students when they have had a concussion as part of their understanding and for parents to understand what they have to do or what they should expect.
Really what they need to do to return to school.
Mhm. It's also on our website too, I'm sure. I'm okay with making it a procedure that we just do in-house.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned with some of the things where even when they're saying sample academic accommodations, if you have this whole list up there, anybody reading it say, I want this, and this. It's posted as opposed to if it's a more, it could be a list that you give, but you're talking about it at the time
Right.
and saying like, hey, this is what's here, rather than just having it saying like, we can do any of these, which we could theoretically do if the situation warrants it, but it is sort of a full spectrum, and every situation may not be a full spectrum situation.
That's what I was gonna say, every situation may be different, because what happens with a severe or traumatic
Mhm.
injury is gonna be different than just a minor concussion. And we have had those severe ones. I'm fine with it like it is.
So leaving it as the attachment.
I don't think it needs to be on, in the policy manual.
Yes,
Some more of a procedure.
It's just an internal document, it's
Internal.
being used, but we don't.
No need it as a policy.
Okay, so if we do that, we'll need to go to the full board to modify it to not be in the policy. We can't change that.
Right.
Okay, so recommendation is to move this as a procedure and remove it from the online manual as a standard practice.
Right.
We'll move that to the board for approval on next agenda by consensus unless there's any concerns. Hearing none, we'll move that to the full board for consideration. All right, next we have policy 4705, 8725, confidentiality of personal identifying information.
Right, so just, the first thing that we are gonna have to do is we have to add the cross-reference to 4705. It's currently only tagged as 7825. So we just wanna make sure that that's, and, so this is, we have had a version with our language, but Neil recommend, just because of the changes, or that we go with the School Boards Association version. And even though Neil is always very deferential to past OCS policy language, and we both agreed, like, let's just stick with the School Boards Association in this area. So in a sense, that's got the stamp of approval both from the School Boards Association and Barrington Smith to just keep with their model policy.
And one of the comments we got was Ms. Smiley had a question in the list that we have in there, including the student ID. And I know student ID is used for lunches and I'm assuming other information beyond that. So I think that's a good add, just to make sure that that's not given out. Any concerns,
I don't think-
Dr. Jones?
I don't think the student ID is used for lunches, they can get a lunch number. They'll,
Well, that's what I wasn't sure, is she referring to the lunch number or?
I think she's, anything that can identify the student, and what we have in here, I think, is any identifying information. And so, when we're thinking through, you have your social security number, what else would there be out there? And each student is given a student ID by the state that follows them, and so that would identify the student, so, I can see not giving that out. But I felt like that was just covered in saying,
Other personal identifying information, right, in the first sentence.
and really in saying that if you give some, even if we can't come up, it's very hard to come up with an exhaustive list, right? And so if there's something we don't think of to put in here, and someone gives something out that can personally identify someone, that would be a violation of this policy.
Yeah, I believe the reason she had brought it up is the second paragraph explicitly lists several items and it's not in there. But I agree that.
Yeah, we can add,
The-
that, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we could add that, I mean, it does, the last sentence does specific, so two things, I have a solution potentially, but the last sentence says, any numbers or information that can be used to access an individual's financial resources, biometric data, fingerprints, and passwords. I'm not sure on the one hand, I'm not sure this specifically targeting out the student identification number hits any of those, but I think an easy solution without adding more to the list is just to say, for purposes of this policy, the first sentence of this, personal identifying information includes but is not limited to. And then,
Yeah,
and then it covers it, and we don't have to keep adding to the list that the
Yeah.
school board has done.
Yeah, I like that, because the danger of having even specific things listed out is, this wasn't on the list and I didn't know, but if you have access to that information, then you know that that is personal identifying information.
yeah, that makes
Mhm.
sense. And that way it doesn't seem like it's an all-inclusive list either. Okay, so includes but not limited to for that section. Okay, any other comments or questions on this policy? All right, so a recommendation from the policy committee to move this to first reading with changes by consensus. Any concerns? All right, hearing none, we'll move that to first reading with the changes. All right, next we have new regulation 4705 and 7825, confidentiality of personally identifiable information.
Yeah, we had some more questions on this one.
Yep.
So one question was, can we add judicial in front of warrant in section B2, part A?
And what was that now?
Judicial warrant.
Judicial,
So
okay.
somebody doesn't show up and it says warrant, and there's a question of, is it actually a warrant from a judge? There's been a lot of discussion about this out and many avenues about people,
Administrative versus judicial
administrative
warrants.
warrant versus I get it. I'm in support of adding that word just for clarity, but I don't know how others feel.
I think that we may just have to bring it, I think warrant is inclusive, and I think we just wanna be careful with how we add it, so I would recommend, we didn't have a chance to give this back to Neil to consider, I don't, or did he?
Oh, the question?
Yeah, the question. And it could be that we pull it and discuss it on the board floor, but I just wanna make sure that if we're adding something, that we're not adding it in a way where because there's some times where you don't have to have a judicial warrant. It can just be,
So if we have questions around that, I'd rather bring it back here
Oh, that's
and
fine,
try to
yeah.
have a public conversation without having, because he may bring up, well, you have to consider, and then let's clarify these separate things, and that'll give the full board a chance to see it before it comes and us trying to figure it out on the floor. Because what may happen is it would come back anyway, unless somebody feels strongly we need to have this through now.
The only, in terms of adding it, just as a, you know, if we feel like, when you add it, you are really defining it. And if you leave it vague, so if there is an issue in the community amongst the board about what warrants to honor or not, by leaving it just as warrant, it actually leaves some room for interpretation, as opposed to you have a policy and then you get a warrant that you're told by outside attorneys, "Well, you have to accept this." Well, now we're just violating our policy. If it's a non-judicial warrant that, closed session, whatever, you're talking and you get legal advice, like, well, no, you have to accept this. Even if it's not a judicial warrant, it's a different type of warrant. Now we're violating policy. Whereas opposed to if it just says warrant, it still leaves, if there is room for consideration about what you wanna do, it leaves you that room. So leaving it alone might,
I definitely want legal advice on this, because there's a lot of churn in this area, and I think us understanding, to your point, where the challenges will be, or where we're putting ourselves, where we may have to honor something we didn't intend, I think it would be just advisable. I mean, this is one of the times I think we do want legal, unless somebody else, anybody feel differently?
No, I'm okay with that. I just, again, like Mr. Kowick said, I don't want to put us in a position where we are kind of pigeonholed and honoring something or not, and then, yeah.
Yeah, I agree, but that's why I
Yeah.
want to have Neil give us a weigh-in so the full board can see a response, and then that way we're not at a public meeting trying to make a decision on this and us making a very quick decision on something that we should be thoughtful on. That's my only concern.
More clarity is
Yeah.
probably
That's-
warranted on this one.
That's fine, but I do want to point out, when we say warrants, all warrants are covered.
Yeah.
It's not,
Right.
that we're not specifying any type of warrant or NCSBA really is not specifying specific types of warrants. It is, when you say warrants, all warrants are covered at that point.
All right, so we'll have this one come back to the committee with Neil's input as well.
I mean, Neil has already reviewed this too, but on the
Well, but
specific
with
issue.
context, yeah, with that context, because he didn't have that question prior to it. All right, next one is 4720 survey of students.
There were more
Oh,
questions.
yeah, sorry.
Before we move on.
Okay, go ahead. Yep.
So the question was that the concern about Part C being overly broad and open to interpretation in the same policy. And so it's asking for more, could there be safeguards and then, what if somebody shows up and saying it's related to an investigation? The only thing I might say about that particular question about this policy is that when you look at section C, it is referring to, it's referring only to the following individuals within the school system. So the question was based on, hey, if somebody from outside the school system is coming and saying it's related to the investigation, well, section C is only talking about folks within the school system have access to the numbers. It's not even talking about if somebody's coming from outside. So I just don't no, it's worth, I mean, we're bringing this back anyway, but I just don't, I'm not, or I just missed how, it relates to somebody from outside the school system, that particular section.
Yeah, based on the feedback, it seemed the interpretation was somebody external could be asking versus, to your point, it's very explicit on internal to the school district. So I do believe that's addressed because it isn't external, it's internal.
That was the last question on that one.
Okay. All right, then we'll move on to 4720, the survey of students.
Yeah, this was sort of again, a School Boards Association update, and then the main thing that we did as staff was to just make sure it was parent guardians throughout the policy.
There was a question on this one as well, right? Which I know has come up before about, section D, right? And, when we would give that information out and, could we talk about some examples? Because I know that when I had asked about this originally, whenever this policy came up last time, one of the examples was scholarships to schools, and if we don't release that, they can't be considered. And I just want to make sure we talk through some of these, because we did get a question about it, and I think it'll help them listening back to this on some of the options when we would release this, because I remember going, oh wow, we could be limiting somebody's chance to get a scholarship if we say you can't. And then there were some medical cases, I thought, with the health department where we would be required to do that.
Yeah, and I think those are covered in the other policy. What's the other policy with, not identifying information, but, we just reviewed it.
Yeah.
I can't think of the name of it.
The confidentiality of personally identified.
Yeah, directory information, you know, kind of what we limit where, and we have tiers now of information that can be given out. I feel like that's probably what you're referring to is covered in there. This is speaking directly to marketing, and the ad was from Adam Miller at NCSBA. So right now, I don't really have an example for when we would do this with the marketing. Could be possibly with fundraising, I'm not sure.
So was there anybody on the staff that felt strongly we needed this?
I don't think, not that I know of.
The staff was fine as.
With or without it, because either way, the board, it says, if, in the event the Board of Education approves. So if there was, maybe, you know, NCSBA has it in there, if there is a case where you are able to approve it, I mean, it can't be done unless that happens, and there has to be some circumstance where that happens. And these are the steps you would have to take in order to do that.
So,
The section about where the rules don't apply, right, is for, like, when I read that, I was like, book clubs, right, like, it's one thing, like the college, that in one, in that section, you know, recruitment, scholarships, you know, that kind of stuff, you know, I think that's sort of related to the directory information. But then again, they're talking about book clubs, magazines, programs, providing access to low-cost literary products. Could be useful, but that's, again, there's a decision there, if the school system collects, discloses, or uses personal information from students for the exclusive purpose of developing in these areas. So, you know, there's, I mean, this is from the school, you know, this is from the school boards, and our staff didn't really have any objections to the way this was listing, so, I mean, I can't imagine we're giving free magazines, free Sports Illustrated, so here's all the student information, it's like, you know, it's gonna be thrown out. I can't imagine the school system is ever gonna do that, but if it is providing, you know.
Right, it has to be approved first.
Mhm.
Number 6 is the one that I think we actually do. Like, we do have external entities that will present to a specific student a recognition.
I question, so, but why would they need personal identifying information, right? They come do it at the school, right? They don't need to know where the student lives, their social security number or anything.
And if it's external, usually it's the parent that's directly providing that, or, you know, working with the student and the organization. I think this just leaves it open to, if there was a circumstance that it has to be approved by the board, and these are the steps that you would take. But I'm really trying to think through an example. I don't have one.
I can give an example. So we have external organizations that are given students' names to print out certificates and walk in. The parents are then notified they're going to be getting an award. And so they do have the student's name, possibly grade, so directory information to be able to do that.
Mhm.
So we do that, we definitely do that. And I support it 1,000%, but that's the only case that I can think of off the top of my head, that we have a recognition where we do provide it to a third party, and then they come in with certificates or something and give that, and then the parents are notified that their child will be recognized,
Mhm.
for example.
That's covered, is that not covered in the directory
Right,
information?
I'm just saying,
Okay, yeah,
I'm connecting the two
I
like
got
you
you,
did,
yeah,
that,
uh-huh.
that we cover,
Yeah.
this is the only information we give
Yeah.
you, and then this specifies which type of program would we support that. So I'm just saying it does
Mhm.
connect together, and we're following that, so. So I don't have an issue with it.
I don't have an issue with it, I think it's worked so far.
And it does require
It does
approval.
require.
Okay, any further discussion or concerns?
But the directory information does not, it's already board policy.
Right.
We're not bringing that for approval. There's a different, I think the lens here is purpose of marketing or selling information, or otherwise providing information to others for that purpose. So the recognition piece is not for the purpose, you know, it's for the purpose of supporting the student, not marketing or selling.
Right.
So I think that's the distinction here.
But this also says, or other providing the information to others for other purposes, so it's not just sales or marketing,
It
it
says,
could be.
or others for that purpose. Right, so, or use of personal student information for the purpose of marketing or selling the information, or otherwise providing the information to others for that purpose.
Oh, for a third party.
Yeah, so it is
Yeah.
for marketing. Basically, it would be for marketing, which, that's why I'm saying, I can't think of a reason or an example where that has happened, or, but, if it does, it would need to be approved.
The only place I could think of something like this would be a CTE program, like the, recognition for something in CTE through some of these companies that kids work with, but they're not marketing that.
And
They're
we're not
just-
providing their information.
And we're not providing their information,
Yeah.
they're just getting a recognition.
Yeah.
And I think we handle recognitions in a different manner.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
I-
can't think of
And,
anything
So,
here.
The-
so if that's,
The thing that helps with this is if there is a scenario where that presents itself, it's in policy that says, if you're wanting to do this, you must get it approved from the board.
Yeah.
Versus it not being there and someone says, well, I thought we could, I didn't see anything wrong with this. So this explicitly states, however, in the event the Board of Education approves a collection, disclosure, or use of personal student information for one of those purposes, this is what has to happen, and it's explicit that it has to be board approved.
so, and to say it in my own words,
Mhm.
instead of us having a vague, unclear area, this would allow to be very specific that if somebody wanted to do this, this is what you must do, not saying we do allow it.
That's right, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and the first sentence is saying,
Yeah.
generally will not.
right. And I think that was the point of the question, that it contradicts the first sentence, saying that we don't do this generally, but if we did, but I think, the only alternative would be that we do not do that, not generally not doing it. But again, I think NCSBA leaves room for school districts to make those decisions on their own. So I would not advise having the first sentence without having the following sentences that says, if it does happen, it must be board approved, and these are the conditions that have to be followed. But I also think saying we generally do not do this is important as well, so that when someone sees it, they say, this is not a great idea to do.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, they don't do that.
yeah, we need to tread lightly here if
Probably need
that
to find
does.
something else to do.
Because just because it hasn't presented itself doesn't mean that it won't, yeah. So I feel like that's why that's in there, but,
Yeah, I think we move it to the full board and,
Mhm.
and let the rest of the boards weigh in on it. I think after the discussion, it makes sense to have it in there as a, what people can expect. All right, any other comments or questions about this policy? There was one other comment, and I think it was a generic comment about policies where we
Parent guardians.
added parent versus
Mhm.
guardian, and if we're gonna have a consistency on defining, what guardians mean.
Which seems more of like moving forward. I'm not sure it's a call to look back on everything, the 120 plus policies we've done in the past year but when they come up again, they should.
read parent guardian.
Yeah.
And the definition would be, it's who is, in our system, because that paperwork follows, is used to put those persons in the system as a parent and or guardian.
All right, with that, can we move this forward to first reading by consensus unless there are concerns? Hearing none, we'll move this to first reading to the full board. All right, new policy 5,000, schools and the community.
Right, we don't have this policy and we don't think we need it, basically. I don't wanna mince words here, but. It's basically a policy, just listing our other policies.
Right, it looks like a reference guide to me.
So brought up, obviously, it's not part of our manual now, and I don't necessarily think it has to be brought to the board to not adopt it, or unless we think it, I don't, since it's not here, we're not adopting it. but in part of what we do to let you know, we're
Yeah.
getting this from the School Boards Association, we want the policy committee to be aware of it in case you decided, hey, yes, we do want it.
Yeah, I mean, if we don't recommend bringing it to the full board, we definitely would want the board to know that we decided not to do that, for example. Feelings of the committee on this of bringing it forward or recommending not to?
I don't think we need it.
Yeah, it's covered under every
Every
part of
other.
the policy.
Yeah. I don't see why we need a policy just to have a policy that we already have.
Okay, given the feedback, we'll recommend not moving this forward, but we do want to notify the full board that we reviewed it and feel like this is already covered under existing policies. All right. Policy 5020, visitors to the schools.
Yeah, most of this is just, school board's update. I did add a sentence in A1. The last sentence there was not there, and I added that, so.
So just a question on that, Mr. Cowick. So, I assume that if somebody's going to a class event that the teacher set up, that's the teacher's managing the approval by the principal. I'm just thinking the practical part. If somebody shows up and wants to go to the classroom, it's up to the office staff to confirm that. Who has responsibility to confirm this?
So practically, if someone shows up out of the blue,
Right.
you mean, and I wanna go visit my child's classroom, they can come in the building, they can sign in, and my recommendation is always that they're escorted to the classroom. There's no reason for us to know ahead of time why you're there, what you wanna see, and, unless you're there for a specific purpose to volunteer, I've always recommended that they're escorted, and, because otherwise, it's
They
hard
could
to
walk
maintain
anywhere,
and
yeah.
control what's happening. So that's really the approval of the principal. I don't advise them to deny them that unless there's a reason, like there's someone that's really upset, or, they know something that, you know, could cause a disruption. And, you know, let's be honest, those things do happen. And so that would be where, that approval would come from. So it's not hard, I don't think it's hard to maintain or manage at the school level, but it's just, parents understanding that, you know, it's best to think through that ahead of time if you want to save time, but we always try to accommodate when they do show up.
I always tried to ask just enough questions to find out, to make sure that something wasn't wrong and they were trying to find out something.
I think the spirit of it too is like, there could be blanket approval, right? Like you know, it doesn't necessarily, you know, if it's a parent that's very helpful, or, you know, the teacher has invited the parent in because maybe there's some behavior difficulties with the student, and it would help to have the parent in there, you know, there could be sort of a blanket approval you can come. It's giving an out if there is a situation, like Dr. Jones said, maybe that parent is beeping on their phone the whole time they're in the classroom, or maybe they're engaging their student, or their student is not paying attention, so they grab the student's ear and pull it, or, disruptive behaviors in there, and then it's a place where you can go back, because that first sentence says, oh, visitors are welcome to observe and learn about the educational program. That's kind of a big grant. And we would hate to have a disruptive parent saying, hey, your policy says I'm welcome to come and learn about the educational program, so I'm gonna sit in this classroom. This just gives an out for that, really.
But because the principal, has to respond to whatever is happening in their building, they need to know what is happening and who's there.
Right.
And why?
That's right, yeah.
All right, any other discussion?
Just wanna point your attention to changes at the end of the policy. The last paragraph. We're changing from the principal may deny an individual personal, permission to come onto the grounds, and then appeals go to the superintendent, as opposed to the superintendent having to be the one to deny.
Sounds good.
Does.
And I changed is guilty of, we're not a court of law here, so we just demonstrated disruptive or dangerous behavior.
All right, any other comments or feedback? If not,
Actually, just to give a foreshadowing, not to change anything, but
Sure.
the appeal, I'm conscious, especially as we're gonna be moving over the next few months into the 7,000s, to keep our appeal procedures the same. Our appeals are generally filed within 10 workdays, whether it's grievances or, harassment, this guy, so even here, we're trying to, I'm keeping a mind on the timelines to make them consistent throughout as we go through the policies.
All right, with that, we'll recommend moving this to full board for first reading by consensus, unless there are any concerns. Hearing none, we will move that to first reading. All right, next, we have another new policy, 5023-6128-7268, emergency administration of naloxone.
It's nothing really to add. It sort of speaks for itself.
It was pretty cut and dry.
Yeah. Okay, any further discussion on this? All right, we'll recommend reading this to first reading to full board by consensus, unless there are any concerns. Hearing none, we'll move that to first reading. Next, policy 5025, prohibition of drugs and alcohol. Short and straight to the point.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure we really need this as separate, but I don't think it hurts to have it up there, like with that in the
Yeah.
title, more for visitors, and people coming onto campus. It is addressed in other policies, but I don't think it hurts to have it.
Looks good to me.
All right.
I do have one,
Sure.
we now have, and I'm sure it's probably considered well, I don't know if it's illegal drugs, but we now have, some drinks with THC in it,
Mm.
so.
Yeah, I was thinking about that as well.
Yeah, do we consider that now?
But the THC portion would make that
The illegal drug?
illegal drugs.
Yeah.
I'm asking,
I
is
don't-
that, would that be considered, because anytime,
I don't think it is, but cause
Mhm.
it's sold, you know, at, you know, local stores, it's just the amount that's not controlled, so.
but it's
Isn't it like a certain level
Yeah,
above, you know,
yeah, I
which,
think what I've seen was like 5 milligrams, 10 milligrams of THC. So, I don't know.
so I think if it goes over the limit,
Right.
it
then
would be
can-
encapsulated by the
right,
first sentence
yeah,
of the legal drugs.
Yeah.
it is prohibited in general for students, for
Right.
anyone,
Under the age of,
for any
Yeah.
student, whether they're 18 or not, if they're on our
Mhm.
campus.
okay.
Yeah, I have to have that discussion with employees, figure out if they're
Yeah.
positive on the, you know,
Oh, yeah.
on a drug test.
Oh, yeah,
It's like,
yeah,
well, I was just doing what I bought from the store.
yeah,
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
we don't know that, or,
Right,
you know,
right.
we just know the results.
all right, that's right.
So I thought in other policies, we had a slightly different wording that said, you know, instead of being specific under the influence, it was, I can't think of the word.
Exuding the odor?
No, same thing as being under the influence, but you don't know what it is. They, I don't wanna say incapacitated, but it's,
It's, what is the word? From some impairing substance.
yeah, anybody appearing to be impaired, cause you, to your point, if they're under, you know, drinking that, they may be impaired
Right.
versus you know exactly what it is. So I thought there was another policy that explicitly said that.
That what, that you
If
can't
you-
demonstrate impaired behavior?
Well, if you appear to be impaired, that,
So in 7240, it says employees must not, at any time this policy is applicable, be impaired by the use of substances intended to induce exhilaration or euphoria. There's words, we'll get to that one, I guess.
yeah, no, but
Okay,
that's the one I was thinking
Yeah,
of, is
or
there was
alter mood or
a
behavior.
wider range to catch some of the
Mhm.
others, is what I was getting at.
Okay.
Yeah, but it also says be impaired by the excessive use of prescription or non-prescription drugs or other lawful products. That's a lot of, and then it does talk about employees who choose to use retail products made from cannabis or hemp,
Mhm.
including
Mhm.
CBD and THC in excess of legal requirements or in
Okay.
violation of this policy. And that's cited, 7240 is cited at the bottom of 5025 too,
Okay.
for employees.
Mhm.
Okay, any other discussion or recommendations?
Mhm.
All right, well, we'll recommend moving this to first reading by consensus unless there are any concerns. Hearing none, we'll move this to first reading. Okay, next we have policy 5027, 7275, weapons and explosives prohibited.
This is. Yeah, there was, no, I mean, most of this is just straight from statute and legal requirements. I did add a sentence in A, in section A, weapons and explosives defined.
So, section 2, where it talks about concealed handgun permit, does it December change,
Mhm.
that you don't have to have that?
Mhm.
Should we have a different,
But when if the law passes,
Yeah, yeah.
then we'll get an update from NCSBA and we'll update our policy.
okay.
That's why we do the regular updates in the spring and in the fall. But for now, it must be concealed, they must have a concealed permit.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it is clear that this policy does not apply to students.
Mhm.
So, I'm not a fan of number C, where it talks about a person within a locked vehicle and removes the handgun from concealment for the amount of time reasonably to move it to a closed compartment or container within the vehicle, or move it from the closed compartment or,
It's that general
Container.
statute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't,
it's within the statute?
we don't, yeah,
Yeah.
this
That
is
is
straight from.
crazy.
Well, North
Yeah.
Carolina, there's a big movement to keep guns with everyone, so it's,
We probably should just be ready to note that to the rest of the board.
yeah, the question came up among staff too, like, do we need to keep this at all? And the answer is yes, it's law, we have to.
Okay. All right, any other discussion? Okay, we'll move this to first reading to full board by consensus unless there are concerns. Hearing none, we'll move that to first reading. Okay, 5040, news media relations.
Did we miss out on
Oh.
5028, or am I?
Yeah, there's no.
Oh, maybe we already did that one last week.
That was-
No, we didn't. The defibrillator?
Yeah,
It's not on the agenda.
okay.
No, that's it.
Well, we'll wait till next.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on our list. Which is not a major one, it's just part of the health update.
Yeah, that's yeah, I should have checked that closer, that's on me. All right, we'll do it next month.
Are we gonna remove the cross reference?
Yeah,
If we adopt it, I think, there was a question about whether we need to adopt or not, and I think Neil was okay with not adopting this policy.
Correct, yeah, we advise no adoption for this one.
I think it's covered in.
it's
the
covered
Policy in
under,
the 1,000s.
I thought it was 220,
Maybe,
sorry,
yeah.
2,220. It talks about its official school spokesperson.
Yeah, also with the board too.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is basically citing other policies.
Mhm.
Okay, thoughts of,
It's fine with me.
so this will be recommended to not move forward, and then we'll need to notify the board of that in case there's concerns that we should talk about. Okay. Okay, policy 6,000, support services. the shortest policies.
Mhm.
We didn't think there was a harm in having this, I mean, not that there was a harm, that's not the best
Yeah.
word, but, some of these other like 5,000, we just didn't adopt. Some of these are kind of generic opening policies about other policies, but as a statement of purpose, we thought there was no issues with keeping this.
Looks good to me.
All right, so we'll recommend moving this to the full board for consideration by consensus. Any concerns? Hearing none, we'll move that to first reading to full board. 6100, goals of students' health services. Also a new policy.
Yeah, this is a new policy as well. So you'll notice a lot of the sort of moving the word health there. I sort of, the opening sentence there, the goals of student health services are, and then they like repeated the word health in all the little things. I was just trying to make it run a little cleaner there, since we are in student, the title of the policy and is all about student health services. We didn't.
Yeah, I appreciate the adding of and safety. All right, any additional feedback? All right, we'll recommend moving this to first reading to the full board by consensus unless there are any concerns. Hearing none, we'll move that to first reading. Next, we have 6110, Organization of Student Health Services.
We felt this one was not necessary.
Okay.
You've already said all.
Yeah, it's in the prior. Okay, we'll recommend not moving this forward to the board and just notifying them of such. Okay, next is existing policy 6120, student health services.
So the note that we had was here is that there's some cross-reference with 4205, another health policy, but when staff and I looked at it, together, we were fine with keeping, we weren't gonna try to merge them or anything like that, the 6120, it was fine as is, so it's no changes really other than deleting cross-references that we had in this policy.
I say send it on.
So, our policy manual for 1310.
For parental
Yeah.
involvement,
Do what?
1310?
Yeah, it refers to 1310 as parents' rights. Parental involvement.
Okay. Just would need to change that.
Yeah, if you go back to the 1000s,
Yeah, it says.
Franklin, that's not what it says.
Hmm?
Well, I don't understand.
Yeah.
It's got partial Spanish and English. And then normally it's one or the other, because when you click in it, it goes. Cause isn't it you
you're-
see what I mean,
The link is taking you to the Spanish version, is that what you're saying?
yeah, I
I
thought
suppose.
you select the whole site and you're either in Spanish or you're in English.
Yeah, this looks like an artifact of the past before that access was there. So like it's having 1310 in Spanish, but this link is probably old.
Right, I was just bringing it up as something that just, when I was going through looking at the cross-reference, I noticed that.
Yeah, 'cause it doesn't even say in this PDF when it was updated. And the general format of this one doesn't look like the ones we do now. You can see it here at the top.
Yeah. So if we can get that just fixed.
Well, since we're involved with that, and I wanna, in the 4000 series, no, I guess it's there, that's fine. So it's, yes, the 4000 series doesn't have the Spanish version.
Oh,
In the 1000s, in the governing principles, it has two, but in the 4000s, it just has the English version. So it's,
we need to make it consistent.
that, yeah, that, I mean,
That
that's
was
not
my
really a
point.
board, we
No, no,
need
no,
to,
that's,
but we do have to recode, but no, but your point, yeah, no, I'm totally agreeing with you, I'm just taking it, the next step.
yeah,
In the 1000 sections, first of all, it's not coded with the 4002, the 1310. If you go just to the 1000, it's just, we have 1310/4002 parental involvement.
right,
And then we have 1310,
10 as a separate
no
one.
4000 link at all
Correct,
for the Spanish version, and the Spanish version is not in the 4000
Yeah.
correct.
section. So I think that's not, we'll just clean that up.
Right, I just brought
So-
it up as something I saw
No,
when
it's
I
good.
was looking at it.
So I'm hearing that needs to be removed. 1310 in Spanish needs to be removed.
No,
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 we need
no,
to,
no,
we
no.
just
He
need
needs
to
to-
add the
I'll-
4002.
I got it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
we need
got
to
it.
make it consistent.
That I get, but then my question about is this link. This link I think is, I don't know if anybody's looked at this. This is supposedly 1310, but in Spanish, but it hasn't been, it doesn't even match the formatting of our 1310 that we've been through several times in the last couple of years.
The
That's
last
my-
time that was done was 17.
Yeah, here you
So
go.
it needs to be up,
Right, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. If we're gonna go through that and it's staying, then I assume that this PDF also needs to be updated.
I think it's a combination of all of those.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll make sure those are all. Good catch.
Well, it helps when we go through these and you open them and look at them, so. All right, so we'll recommend moving this to first reading to a full board by consensus unless there are any concerns. Hearing none, we'll move that to first reading. Okay, next we have the policy 6130, the automated external defibrillator.
Oh, that's where I
Oh,
was
there,
getting confused.
that's where it is, yeah.
Yeah, so first of all, we have to add another link to it in the 5000. Yeah, so it's also coded as 5028.
Yes, it is.
That was what was throwing me.
And then 7267, so we'll need to,
Yes, it needs the other. Yes, I have that in the note, it's in, I just missed it with all the other thing. Oh, good, so we don't have to bring it back. This is really just a straight sort of update,
yeah,
and adding the two other coded, the 5000 section and the 7000 sections, numbers for the codes.
all right. Any other additional comments or questions?
Looks good.
Okay, we'll move this to first reading by consensus unless there are any concerns. Hearing none, we'll move that to first reading. All right, next is discussion. The 2230 is the board committee policy and liaisons. We did receive one comment from a board member to specify limits on the number of times you can be chair for committees. So I just wanted to bring that. I did cross-reference with School Boards Association and others, and there's currently not any listing for such, but I definitely wanted to bring just to see thoughts or ideas around that as well. Or if there's any other changes anybody had. So you'll see none on here, it's just for discussion.
Mhm.
Is it saying, are they asking just for chair, or is it also being a member of the committee?
No, it was just, it was just chair.
So what if you have other board members who don't wanna be chair?
I mean, like this year.
Yeah.
Where you'll select, no, I don't want it. I don't know, you would have to,
I mean, you don't wanna force someone to be chair if they don't wanna be chair.
There's some people who are not comfortable with some committees. They're more comfortable with other committees than they are some committees, so. I don't know.
well, the other thing too that we did this year in committees that we haven't done is we did put a chair and a vice chair in
Mhm.
committees of the whole. We could add that, but I'd rather wait, to be honest, and see how that goes and get everybody's feedback first, since we're just trying it.
Right.
But that's the other thing that we've done that's a little differently,
Right.
committee of the wholes.
And you know, Board of County Commissioners let you do it for 2 years and then you move to something else, especially as chair. I don't know about chair committees so much, but we could put a limit on whatever you want to. I see no need to do that, but I mean,
Okay, I can, when I call board members to do updates, I can check in with each person. This is not
Get a feel.
being brought in that we have to take any action today,
Right.
just
Conversation.
a start of a conversation, so.
Yeah.
So I'll take the action to talk to other board members and then also give y'all a chance to think about it as well.
Okay, that's fine.
All right, we're at the roll-up.
All right, we'll start at the top,
Sure.
work our way down. Starting with policy 4202, I won't say all the other ones, there's several cross-references. This was moved to the first board with consensus. Regulation attached to it also moved to the board on consensus with changes. 4230, moved to the board on consensus. 4270, moved to the board on consensus. The attachment, recommendation is to remove from the policy manual. I wrote move to the first board of consensus. Does that mean we're taking the attachment to the board on consent to tell them we're not gonna do it?
Right, because we're removing it, it's
Okay.
already, since it's in the policy,
Okay.
this is a request to remove it. So we can't, this committee just can't remove it. We can say we don't recommend moving something that's not there, but on something that's existing, the board has to take action to remove it.
Even if it's just an attachment, it's not an actual policy. It actually lists itself as an attachment. I'm just clarifying.
Right,
So it's like one
no,
of the only ones I've ever seen.
yeah, given it's a strange, I'd rather have the full board take action versus it seeming that we just removed it.
And then the part of that is noting in the recommendations on that item on consent, the recommendations are removed. That's the note I took for myself.
Perfect.
4705, move to first read with changes.
Yep.
New regulation 4705.
We're gonna
Request to
ask
send back to the committee
After-
specifically after the questions that were brought up.
to Neil, and I'll add that to my list for Neil.
And that's the regulation attached to the policy, because the policy is going forward, but the regulation is not. 4720, serving the students, move to first read on consensus.
Yep.
Policy 5000, recommended to not move forward and just notify the board. So
Yep.
this one does not need to go on consent, this is just recommended not to remove, because it wasn't in the policy when they began. 5020, move to first read on consensus. 5023, move to first read on consensus. 5025, first read on consensus. 5027, first read on consensus. 5040, first read on consensus. New policy 6000, bringing forward, move to first read on consensus. New policy 6100, the same, move forward on consensus.
I'm sorry, what did you say for 50/40?
5040, no, I read too fast, recommended not to.
Okay,
to adopt.
I'm sorry, I got stuck there, I was like, wait,
I
mine
was going-
says not,
Yeah, I
okay.
was going too quick.
That's
why.
okay, that's why we do it.
So 5040, we're recommended not adopt and alert the board.
Yeah,
6000, move to first read on consensus. New policy 6100, move to first read on consensus. 6110, recommended not to move forward and notify the board.
okay,
6120, move to first read on consensus, however, the other discussion was fixing the Spanish version of 1310 and and then the attachment of it, so adding the 4000 and fixing the whole PDF. Policy 6130, move to first read on consensus, and then it was the discussion for 2230, which I sounded like the chair will move forward with a plan to discuss with board members.
independently, and then bring back once we have some results from the chair, vice chair option at a future.
Don't forget on 6130 to add the cross numbers.
The 50/28 and 72/68.
Yes, it's like, I'll note that,
Yep.
because it's adding it, it's like retitling it.
And we'll review like we always do.
When there's follow-up regarding policies that we're not gonna recommend get adopted, do you want Franklin to do that?
Whatever's easiest, since you have the notes, you can just send out that,
I think
you're
there were three,
requested to
right?
notify, and if you have questions, they can send it back to me, I guess.
Mhm.
And what I could do is I could link to this agenda and say, this policy was requested not to move forward. See here.
Right, or, well, even easier, you can refer them back to the video.
Yep,
So,
yeah, same thing.
perfect. All right, we're at the end of our agenda, and with that, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion, can we get a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Thank you all, have a great rest of your day and weekend.